Primetime.
Welcome back to the Weekend Primetime. We continue this hour with the deadly explosion near a health facility in Palm Springs, which the police chief, Andy Mills, is saying, quote, appears to be an intentional act of violence. Right now, the FBI is on the scene investigating the blast. At least one person was killed. 5 others have been injured. Onlookers have reported large debris and damages to multiple businesses nearby. State and local officials say a possible motive remains unclear, including whether a fertility clinic was indeed the intended target. Joining us now is Frank Figliuzzi, former FBI Assistant Director for Counterintelligence and MSNBC National Security Analyst Andy Blankstein, NBC News Senior Investigative Reporter. Also joining us is Dan Adams, who lives in Palm Springs. Let me start with you, Andrew, if you can, just give us an update on the latest information that we're hearing from officials. I don't know if reporters on the scene have been briefed by any of the law enforcement and city officials, but what are you hearing from your sources in terms of where this investigation stands at this hour?
Well, we're still awaiting that press conference, which should begin shortly. But as you said at the top, 1 dead, 5 injured, blast shortly before 11 a.m. this morning in the vicinity of this clinic. And it was felt or heard by people for miles around. In the flats there in Palm Springs, things echo off the San Jacinto Mountains. There were a lot of people that were aware in different ways this morning of this. What we know right now is that there's an ongoing investigation. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and Palm Springs PD so far are jointly investigating this incident. They are processing a scene in the vicinity of this clinic, but other businesses, and trying to determine whether this facility was targeted, but whether also other businesses in the area, or this person was headed somewhere else. But it was a very powerful explosion, as you noted, and a large debris field. And so at this point, I think they're looking at a lot of angles here, not the least of which is processing the scene, but then trying to determine who would have been responsible for this, or whether that person was helped. Processing the scene, looking at both, basically the how, the why, and the who at this point.
Dan, I'm wondering if you can tell us a bit about how people on the ground are doing. I hear you've been speaking with residents, business owners. What are they telling you? What have they seen and experienced?
Well, in a case like this, Palm Springs does not normally have incidents like this that would draw national attention. The people that I talked with this morning were pretty much shocked by it. I talked to some people who were having breakfast at a Denny's nearby, and every window in that Denny's apparently blew out. There were some people that were cut by some of the window shards there. I said people dove under the tables to try to escape. They thought at first it might be an earthquake, and then they realized, no, it seemed like a bomb. I also talked to an individual who was parked at a red light, waiting to go through the intersection about a half block from where the bomb was detonated. He got out immediately and said there were body parts in the street. There were injured people in the street. He tried to help some of them. And he said that at that point, there was really nobody around yet to try to help people yet, because it had just happened. He also showed me what he said he claims picked up off the street, which looked to me to be like a detonator or part of a bomb. From my experience as a reporter over 3 decades, I've seen incidents like this in other places before, and the evidence that this individual showed me that he picked up from the street that he's going to be turning over to the FBI certainly looked like it was part of an explosive device to me.
Frank, we just heard about some pretty traumatic sounding experiences that locals went through during this explosion. What kind of role does law enforcement or other first responders play in not only treating the physical wounds that people have endured, but sort of the shell shock, the local trauma that comes with an incident like this? Do we still have Frank? No, Frank.
Yeah, I was on mute. Apologies, but serving the community in that way, the trauma, post-trauma services usually falls upon the local municipality in cases like this, when Victims who were not necessarily targeted are suffering from trauma. Now, the FBI does have an outstanding victim witness assistance program that could come into play here, depending on the magnitude of the victim population. But the one thing that I always key in on is the first responders, the rescue personnel, and the police who responded are reportedly seeing some pretty gruesome sights. There was the fatality. There were at least 5 people injured, and they have a robust trauma team that will come in post-incident and tend to the folks who responded and went through this as responders.
And joining us now from Palm Springs is NBC's Camila Bernal. Camila, if you can hear me, thank you so much for joining us. I know you've rushed to this scene today. What are you seeing and hearing on the ground right now?
Yeah, so I just spoke to an employee at that facility that was essentially where this all happened. And what she told me was that immediately they started texting each other to make sure that all the employees of the facility were okay. She described substantial damage to the front of the facility. And we did get a statement from that facility essentially saying that this happened in the parking lot outside. This is the American Reproductive Centers in Palm Springs. And what the facility said was that all of the eggs, the embryo, the reproductive material, all of that is safe. It is unharmed. The employee that is here, she told me there was damage to the front of the facility, but she said that all of the eggs, the embryos, all of that is stored towards the back, which is part of the reason why it's unharmed. She, of course, described being shocked. She told me, I was just here working yesterday and is now here just to check on what happened, and says she continues to check on her other employees and coworkers. So everybody's sort of coming together to make sure that they're all okay. And then in terms of witnesses and people that live around this area, very similar descriptions to what you've already heard. People describing seeing body parts in the street, describing extensive destruction around the area, a nearby hotel with almost all of the windows blown out. Everybody describing this as a very scary and shocking situation. We are waiting for a press conference. We're all gathered here, of course, and behind me you see a lot of law enforcement activity. There's a sheriff's office, and it's actually unclear exactly who is here because it is just so full of people, and we're not allowed to get nearby. We are told that we're about 200 yards or so from the area from where the blast happened, and are waiting to hear from authorities. But clearly the police department here saying this was intentional, that this was an act of violence. And I think a lot of people in this community are hearing and seeing that, and of course are shocked. We were told that a lot of the people just came out of their homes and they were gathering outside on the street as they were seeing the destruction and the damage and everything that was going on. So clearly people here just wanting more information, as do we, of course, and we're just waiting to hear what authorities have to say.
So judging from what we're seeing on air, it seems to be quite a span already of barricades. The press pool is already there waiting. Can you take us a bit through the timeline? What time did this happen, local time, in Pacific time?
Yes. Yeah, it happened around 11 a.m. local time. It's unclear exactly how fast authorities were able to make it to the scene, but we soon thereafter found out of 1 person dead and 5